Hello and welcome to the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. My name is Urban Cito, host of this 300 plus episode show since 2016. This is the number 181 ranked podcast in the business category of all of iTunes. I want to thank all of the over 200 folks who attended our virtual tour of U.S. income properties this past weekend. It was our first ever, and based on demand and feedback, we'll be doing it again, but only just once a quarter to satisfy everyone's curiosity into what direct investing into U.S. income property actually looks like. We share pictures of properties, virtual tours, home inspection reports, renovation quotes. We walk through the numbers, which were in incredible detail, including the assumptions for like vacancy loss and bad debt and appreciation rate. I personally love all the feedback that we've been getting on how investing in landlord-friendly USA is totally different than what people are used to in Ontario and BC. I was on a Zoom with a lady from Vancouver just last week who buys condos, and the look of surprise and relief on her face when I showed her some properties in the top cities for investment, like Dallas, Texas, or Atlanta, Georgia. She was shocked. You should have seen the look on her face. She was complete shock and relief in knowing that properties in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, that opportunities exist, and they rent for like $1,800 to $2,400 a month plus utilities. And of course, if you put down, 40% down, they will cash flow. For those, even though rates are at historic highs. Anyways, for those who'd like a deeper understanding of how to invest in the USA, we are happy to announce our next US investing workshop on Saturday, April 13th. The link to register is in the show notes. On to this week's show. We have an enlightening episode with Rachel Holden. She has a background in advertising, managing $65 million budgets. And she's gone through a significant journey in real estate investment. She started off at a young age where she grew up in a duplex to owning investment properties in Florida, investing in duplexes and garden suites in Barrie, Ontario. Now a full-blown cottage resort business as an owner and operator in Muskoka, in the high-in-demand area of Muskoka. Rachel's own story of strategic investment and personal growth is inspiring. Our conversation touches on the challenges of property management, the insights gained from renovating and selling properties, and her aspirations to contribute positively to social health through real estate. Cottages and short-term rentals are a very hot topic in this community. I know folks out there are offering courses. Just generally, there's a general trend for folks to want to distance themselves from long-term tenants, and the attractiveness of short-term rentals is obvious. They cash flows better than most strategies. Rachel has experience in both short and long-term rentals. She's a no BS kind of gal. I recommend that you follow her on Facebook. I have a link in the show notes. Rachel has experience, and she's obviously smart. You don't get to manage a $665 million budget for some of the most recognizable brands in the world. And she worked at 2 of the top 10 advertising agencies in the world. Her website is caradengroup.com, CARADEN group.com. Again, I have links all in the show notes. I have a link to her TikTok. I had no idea she had a TikTok. She has a TikTok for her chalet Muskoka, and also there's a website, Chalets Muskoka. Is there supposed to be, you're supposed to say the S in chalets? It's plural, chaletsmuskoka.ca. All right, please enjoy the show. Rachel's pretty awesome. All right, talk to you later. Hello, Rachel. What's keeping you busy these days?
Hey, how are you doing? Everything. It's been a wild year.
After chatting with you, I can understand, everything. You have kids? A lot of them?
I have 2.
2?
I have 2, yeah. So 10 and 12.
Are they in like rep sports, so they're like crazy busy?
Yeah, so my daughter is not into sports at all. She is a passionate crocheter.
Okay.
She is, arts and crafts, cut and paste. And my son is in rep sport, yeah. So he plays hockey and he's a goalie. And my husband is his coach, so.
So you never see them?
Well,
unless you're the one Ubering them around.
Exactly. So I have to go up to Muskoka on the weekend. We're actually sponsoring a hockey tournament, so I'm working that sponsorship, and they can't come up with me because they're playing hockey.
Right.
So they'll come up in the evening and meet me, and
right.
Yeah.
And you have a monster hole in your pocket from rep sports.
Yeah. Well, so far, because of the age, because he's only 12, like he gets all of his equipment supplied. Because the conversation went something like, okay, fine, he can play hockey so long as it's not travel. Okay, fine, he can do rep as long as he's not he's a goalie. Like I am more of the arts and crafts kind. I was like a bit of a theater kid, so sports is not my jam. But they love it, and yeah.
And then I've heard like even with a goalie, they don't always play because sometimes there's usually more than one goalie on the team, so one has to sit.
Right. So he's the only goalie, which makes it even worse.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and he has to be at every game, right? Like so it.
And healthy.
And
show up.
And healthy. And then he was actually, 12 years old. He was recruited into the higher level, but he didn't want to play for that team for whatever reason. I don't understand, kids, politics, I don't know. But now whenever they need somebody, they call him to play on their team too. Mm-hmm. So hopefully his head doesn't get too inflated because he thinks he's in high demand as a 12-year-old goalie.
Yeah, it's cute. It'll be a good experience for him. But you have a lengthy bio, and I think it's important to go through a lot of your past experience because it all helped you arrive to where you are today.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So yeah, please tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I'm originally from Windsor, Ontario. That's not on the bio. Grew up very blue collar, and knew that I wanted to leave the city as soon as I didn't want to do factory work, and there wasn't a lot of office jobs. So I came to Toronto right after school. Like I did an internship, came up here and then never left, and have been here ever since. Started off, my education is in advertising, so I started off at a couple of ad agencies and worked on some really major brand advertising accounts.
Right. Well, you are at the most famous firm pretty much in Canada or the world?
The global.
Yeah.
Globally, yeah. So,
we can name it, right?
Let's say top 10, right? Like between the two of them. So
okay.
I was with Chiat Day, TBWA Chiat Day, who had the very famous Apple accounts at that point, for Apple products. Okay. And then I moved over to what was then McLaren McCann, which I think is now just McCann, and I worked on Pontiac and GMC. So at that point, and we're giving away my age, but a long time ago, it was a $65 million portfolio that I was the account manager of. So we worked, and the internet was in its infancy because that's how old I am. But we did radio and television and print mostly.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And then you were working for other. And then how come you moved to law firms after that?
So the ad agent,
big law firms,
massive. Yeah. So I am not a person who really cares what other people think of them. In general, I'm not super fashion conscious. I'm not super on the trends. And the advertising world is very fashion conscious and super on the trends. And there was just, it wasn't a great fit because although I loved the work, I didn't love the pace and the way that people were treated and things like that. It just didn't suit me personally.
Was it because I think, because I went to business school, so McLaren McCann was a choice destination for pretty much everyone who wanted to pursue marketing. And I think you remember the book, you probably read it, The Devil Wears Prada. I think
I've seen the movie
because I believe the two are kind of interlinked in terms of
very much. So the women that were there were almost all under 40. You don't exist over 40 generally, and I'm speaking in generalizations. And this
from your experience,
this was 20 years ago. Yeah. Maybe things have changed. I don't know. The women were very catty to one another. It wasn't a teamwork situation. The women who were there in their 40s were highly paid, but also very miserable. They were, you could just, they were grumpy all the time. They were there all the time. Whether you got there at 7 a.m. or left at 7 p.m, they were still there.
So it sounds stressful.
So it was a very stressful environment. And then there was men in the higher level roles that would refer to us as his girls. and like, I'm not your anything, and I'm not like, and I just couldn't fit into that role.
It's funny how far we come along.
Yeah, and it's, who knows? Maybe we have, maybe we haven't. I'm not really sure. But I mean, I got an immense amount of experience. I got to work on radio and television campaigns, and the way that they budget and the way that they categorize things, and like, so that's where I cut my teeth on how to do a strategic plan, and SWOT analysis and all of that kind of stuff. I did there.
Right, so you're smart. I don't know if someone hasn't done it. So this is a real estate show, so I'll just apply this to real estate terms. Like, do a SWOT analysis on your real estate portfolio or any sort of investment you're considering or market you're considering.
Yeah,
like it's all helpful.
For sure.
Because like I mentioned, I went to business school, so we were big on Porter's 5 Forces. So that was the framework to help me decide what to invest in, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very structured, analytical approach.
Having a framework is definitely helpful, and I oftentimes forget that other people don't have the same background as me. So things that appear incredibly benign or obvious or what have you is really new information to other people. So I've been able to take on things that other people might not take on because I have that background, and because it's not, that portion is not an intimidation factor for me.
Right.
So it's been helpful.
Right, because mostly what I knew about you before reading your bio was what you post on social media, and you're taking massive action.
Yeah, it's I think there was a whole symphony of things that happened in my life, in the marketplace, legislatively, that caused me to do that. Okay. Now, that being said, there's people in my life, like family and stuff from Windsor, who thought that me moving to Toronto was taking massive action, right? Like, that was a huge leap.
It is.
And it is.
It makes
but
a
I'm
lot
like,
of sense,
it's a 4-hour leap. It's I'm not leaving my home country. There's no language barriers. So
same money, and same currency, I mean.
Yeah. So my thing was like, don't think that I'm doing something big. Look at these immigrants or refugees. They're the ones that are doing something big. I'm just going up the 401. Like, come on. But each of these steps has led me somewhere. Right. So I kind of think of it as a way of, I put out what I want, or what my idea is, or what the dream is, and then things kind of unfold in a way that when you're ready, the opportunity comes to you. So I often take on too much. That's something that I'm trying to work on, is not taking on as much and not being as action oriented.
Every successful entrepreneur takes on too much.
But it's really hard. But I'm continuously saying, like, well, when somebody knocks, you open the door. You don't say, I'm too busy now, come back in 6 to 8 months. Like, the opportunity isn't there in 6 to 8 months. So sometimes you just have to do things even if you don't want to do them. And I think that's probably one of the keys to entrepreneurship, is being able to force yourself to do something that you don't want to do when you don't want to do it because it needs to be done.
Yeah. Because it needs to be done because the opportunity is there.
The opportunity is there. And I fully admit that in the past year, I have wanted to get off the ride. I have said, nope, it was I took on too much. But the world doesn't stop, and it doesn't stop coming at you. And those skills of time management, of emotional management, of all of that is, I think, where your confidence is built, and where your reputation is built on how you deal with all of those things. Because the rest of it's just math.
Charity brings this up often, is that in the early days of her starting up Real Estate Tax Tips, which most people know her business from, which most people know her from her real estate investing, tax business, accounting business, was the early days. She was telling me about the struggles, and I can be a bit of a jerk. So I said, I'll paraphrase, I don't remember exactly what I said, but she repeats it all the time, I let her know that no one really cares about your problems. They only care what's in it for them. So you're going to have to push through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
and you
your
have
customer
to
doesn't care.
You have to have people that you can that you can rely on that are outside of the noise,
Yeah.
right? And you have to have sort of a safe space to retreat to, because nobody cares.
Yeah.
And that's,
And no one's going to help you.
and that's
No one's
it's
coming
a
to save
really
you.
harsh reality. And I think as an entrepreneur, there are times when you're hoping somebody will come and save you. But it is I'll speak for myself, as a woman entrepreneur, you then start to wonder, like, am I looking for a man to come and save me? Because that's this man on the white horse coming in. Or is this a common entrepreneurial issue? And I tend to be, I overthink things. I overanalyze things. It's just, so maybe other entrepreneurs don't have that same problem, but I really do, where I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can rely on myself and I know that, but it would be really nice if somebody would just come in and solve all these problems for me. It would be really nice
Right.
and the majority of the time, the person that would do that is a man, only because I'm so outnumbered generally, right? So statistically, the business partner or the service provider, whoever that is, would be a man. So for me, I always am like, am I employing this white horse syndrome, or is this like a real problem, or how can I, but normally, you take a step back, you take a few deep breaths, you look at it from a different perspective, and then you're like, no, I can do this. It's just time, it's just money, it's just, whatever it is.
After the show, we should talk about entrepreneurship organization. Maybe it's something I can suggest. I'm already in it for 3.5 years.
Okay,
Yeah, Cherry's part of it as well. She's actually our finance chair. It's a nonprofit too, so it's cheap, and no one's gonna push anything on you.
Even better.
Yeah, I love nonprofits. I'm actually surprised that more investors don't seek out nonprofits first before they sign up for like big courses and memberships. For example, local to us, we have the West End Hamilton Builders Association, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling one of my clients, you drive on the highway, you see names on the buildings, who are like home builders,
Yeah.
like third generation home builders. Yeah. Like these folks will be at those meetings. They will not be at most of these mastermind groups that are being sold for $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
They honestly won't, right?
For sure.
Because they're all builders. They want to be at the Builders Association meeting where the other folks with names on buildings are, right?
Yeah.
And it's a nonprofit, so it'll be cheap, right?
And that's the the pay-to-play models of meeting people, and most people who are successful want to see other people be successful, and it's not a $10,000 program to do that. So it's, where do you go to meet those people, and how do you interact with them? And I find the whole thing interesting because the profit margins can be so large in real estate that there is a lot of people trying to take advantage of that.
So let's actually go a bit more specific into the timing, especially with your bio. Is around 2010 you started looking at real estate?
So first of all, I grew up, I lived in a duplex growing up. So the idea of having an income property has been with me my entire life. I, as a hobby, as a kid, used to go through the MLS books, the actual MLS books, to see how other people lived, essentially, right? And to see how much that would be. And
really dating yourself.
I'm really dating myself, yeah, like black and white printout MLS books. So I was a really fun kid, right? Like really popular at parties.
So just to clarify for the listener, MLS before it was the internet, these were basically these were printouts and binders that realtors held on. And that's how they would travel with the MLS.
Yeah.
They have a physical copy.
Yeah.
And then they had to remove listings and add listings as they came up. And,
well, it was like, 8 squares per page or something, right? And then you could go and look it up per region, per zone. Yeah,
pre-internet.
Yeah, pre-internet. So I always knew that I wanted to own property. When I came to Toronto, we rented for a long time, and then I bought a pre-construction condo in 06, 08. So that was my first foray, like, long time ago, for dirt cheap. And the construction on that took a lot longer than it was supposed to.
Yeah, they always do.
Because it hadn't closed, we were still considered first-time homebuyers. So we were able to scrape together 5% and buy a duplex while the condo was being constructed. Again, this is '08, so things were a lot cheaper then, right? So we ended up having the condo being built and living in this duplex for almost free because somebody else was. Then we took possession of the condo and moved into it and lived there, I don't know, a couple of years, and then decided to sell the duplex that we had. I wanted to keep them both, but just financially we couldn't, because then we ended up buying another duplex and we converted it into a single family home. So we bought a rundown duplex in a great neighborhood and then converted it back to a single family home, and that's where we live today in downtown Toronto.
And you've taken courses. Before we were recording, you're telling me about your experience with Florida training and going down there.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate
so
on that?
that was I think 2010. So my son was born in 2011, and the first trip I took down there, he was 5 months old. So I had made the decision that I wasn't going to go back to work. I had a career, but it wasn't a passion career. It was like a making decent money career, and I had always wanted to be a mom, so I wanted to be home with my kids as much as possible. So we took the equity out of the home that we had here, and we went to the States and bought in Florida. So I ended up with 7 houses in Florida in 2011, touring around with my 5-month-old baby, breastfeeding exclusively, and picking up these properties. And then while I was home, unemployed, I was managing these properties in Florida.
And how'd it go?
You know what? It was a wild ride because it was obviously after the financial downturn there, so there was so much available, and no one was really sure what was going to happen, right? Like, is America going to come back from this? Like, how is this going to? So it was a time where things were dirt cheap and money was at par, and I was like, this is it. Like, let's
So
do
good.
it. And people around me thought I was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And couldn't understand what I was doing, were not supportive of what I was doing. And I was like, no, it's the right thing to do. So we got one duplex, actually, with a mortgage through RBC. And then after that mortgage closed, RBC sold off their U.S. division. Like, they had completely decimated their portfolio at that point. So they sold off their U.S. division, and then the company that bought them decided they weren't doing like foreign mortgages anymore. So they completely shut down lending. So
they wouldn't renew. It's not like they took away your mortgage.
Yeah, no. Like, so we had that one mortgage, so I was able to leverage that first property. And then after that, all leverage capabilities were gone. Like, the banks wouldn't lend to anybody. Like, private, I guess we could have used private money. It was really expensive, and I didn't have any experience with that. And I knew I wasn't going back to work, so I didn't want to get myself into a situation where I was, in over my head if things didn't work out. So anyway, we were able to buy 7 properties, and that made me enough money that it was like the same as being on mat leave, or a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So I was able to take those few years and be home with my kids.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it worked out really well, actually. There's highs and lows, and having to evict people and having people deal drugs and there's all of the sort of stories. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it worked out. I just sold my last condo in 2021, I think.
Oh, pretty good timing.
Yeah, it was pretty good timing, because there was other opportunities here, so I could bring that money back and do something with it here.
What would you say your lessons are from your Florida venture? What would you do differently?
So
Buy more, other than buy more.
Yeah, other than buy more. I think that I
you nailed
would.
the timing. both
Exactly.
both the economy and the dollar are par.
I know, right? Like it was. When people looked at me like I was crazy, I was looking at them like, do you not get it? Like, do you not see this good gift sitting in front of you?
Yeah. Well, pretty much, yeah. Most people didn't see the opportunity.
I bought
dollars at par.
I bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo for under $50,000, and it rented for $1,100 US a month.
Yeah, so no brainer.
Like, it was, like printing money at that point. But don't buy off of a pro forma. And I think that that's something that a lot of novice investors get caught up in. Don't trust somebody else's pro forma.
Yeah.
Always look to make sure that they have management costs in there and that they have maintenance costs in there, because a lot of times they do not. They make a lot of assumptions on.
Yeah.
And also, the thing that struck me is a bad neighborhood in the States is like nothing you've ever seen as a Canadian.
And we're still talking about Florida here.
It was,
especially at that time, because that was like the world almost ended.
Right, yeah. And there were a lot of places where on paper you could make a lot of money, where you could buy a duplex or a triplex for $75,000 and it was rented for $5,000 a month. So on paper you were like, that is amazing. But we drove by during the day, and it was like watching an episode of Cops.
Interesting.
Everything was concrete, and the lawns were torn up. There were, in your mind, like rabid dogs in the front lawn, and people hanging out outside. Obviously, not obviously, but like illegal activity happening. And then you would realize, like, yeah, okay, that's great if these people pay their rent, but these people are also drug dealers. So then
diversified income. Okay.
They would be, well, but not if they're in jail.
I'm joking.
Right? So these things where it looks good on paper, like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a landlord to people that are in prison, that are, you come in and there's kids sleeping on the floor?
Yeah.
But they're paying you $2,000 a month, so you don't care and you look the other way. It's how does that make you feel?
Right. And just to give context as well, like, you were from Windsor.
Yeah.
Windsor got hurt pretty badly during the financial crisis, because there's also the automotive industry at the same time they were closing down plants in Windsor.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Windsor investors and like how bad things were.
And see, so they're.
So you saw, like, Windsor experience.
The way that I kind of think about it, and is if a house can be bought for $100,000, right? Who are the types of people economically that are renting?
Yeah.
Because if the barrier to entry is so low, of $100,000, you can buy it with $5,000 down.
What's wrong with it?
And the rent, like the mortgage is less. Then who's renting?
Yeah.
It's the person who can't save any money, who is maybe not economically viable, I'll say, right? So they're jumping from job to job. Some of them are good people, obviously, right? There's always people who are just, in a bad spot. Yeah. But generally, when you're talking, having somebody who can't afford, who can't qualify for a $90,000 mortgage is not necessarily somebody that you want to have renting from you. Right. Whereas in Toronto at the time, it was $500,000, $600,000 like to get in, 15 years ago. So the people that you were renting to are people that have stable jobs. They were people that were working, they were educated, all of that. But they just couldn't get into the market because they had to save up a larger down payment. So, things would take longer.
So sorry, Rachel, just to pause you there, because I think this is why I like the show. Because, for example, we're talking about a $100,000 property. There's probably something wrong with it. And then I'll just add to that, like I already know I won't want to manage it. I think most people know they don't want to manage it themselves. So go ask some property managers if they'll manage it. And if they say no to business, you know there's something wrong.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. But see, the thing is Windsor was such an anomaly for such a long time, where people were making union wages, but the houses were still $100,000. So it's not that there was anything wrong with the property of $100,000. It was just the way the economy works in that city, right? So, and then like the casino came in and all that. So basically saying that it's the economy of scale of where you fit in economically in the city. So a lot of these things where people are saying you can buy this house for $75,000 in Ohio or in Cleveland or something like that. Well, I had looked at some beautiful brownstones in Chicago, and I'm a Toronto girly. I love like the Victorian and the brownstone, and to me, it has a certain cachet about it. Like architecturally, I love them. But then when you look at the information, and they're like, "Oh, it's Section 8 clients, so it's always going to be." Blah, 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 blah. Well, there was like a police patrol that would walk kids to school because there was so much gun violence in that neighborhood. So then you're like, okay, so how am I telling myself this story? Am I providing safe housing to people who might not otherwise get it? Or am I providing housing to people and charging the government? Like, and it's how you make your investment decisions. So it wasn't something that I was comfortable with. I couldn't do it, even though the returns were apparently
the rents
fabulous.
are sick. It's basically a free rental arbitrage opportunity when you do Section 8.
Yeah.
But this isn't a U.S. investing episode. I want to talk more about, you mentioned you were exiting to fund a new venture. Can you tell us more about the venture after Florida?
Sure. So I went to Florida for cash flow, right? Because it was cash flow positive. And
you must have made appreciation in currency gains.
I
too.
did. Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Not as much as I would have liked because I couldn't leverage. Like I couldn't leverage things out, but I did okay.
You would love today's financing options.
Yeah. So I'm not complaining at all. But what brought me back was the changes to the coach house legislation, actually, because in Ontario generally, you can't make cash flow, you can't make money off of a duplex, right? Like
Airbnb it.
Single family homes, you can't do it. Duplexes, it was like pushing so that it was just covering itself. But if you could get that to a triplex, then you've taken that property that would just cover itself, and you've added an extra $1,500 to $2,000 in rent on a monthly basis, which at low interest rates becomes almost pure profit because you're increasing your mortgage only slightly. So you can build something for $200,000 a door, which is unheard of in Ontario. So I was looking at that and saying like, okay, so I can build new housing product in the city and I can mitigate risk because now there's 3 people paying the rent. So if one person doesn't pay, the other 2 could still cover it. So I'm mitigating risk, I'm creating new housing. And then because there's cash flow, there's room for property appreciation because it's not a passion buy. Somebody's not falling in love with it. They're looking at the actual data and saying like, it brings in $6,000 a month. How can I afford to, So looking at all of the inputs, if you could buy for $500,000 and you could construct for $250,000, so you're in it for $750,000-ish. When you look at what the rents are, and at that point we were at like 2.5%, 3%, maybe 3.5%, you could then, the value could go up to 1.2. So I'm getting some cash flow now. I'm building housing to solve a problem. I'm mitigating my risk, and so it was a win-win situation. And that's when I decided to bring the money back and to jump into it. Lots of learnings there. Would have maybe done things a bit differently
Which
than
city
I
were you
did.
in? Were you in Barrie?
I'm in Barrie. Yeah.
Yeah, because that they've kind of flip-flopped around on
Well,
garden suites.
so this is I JV'd with somebody, so I was the financial partner and they were the working partner, and so I bought two, and we were like say one of the first 10 to do this. Did well, and then paid that person for coaching services to coach me, to teach me how to do it on my own, and then did one on my own, and then did another one on my own, and then I ended up being the working partner for two other people and doing a JV. So the learning curve has been massive because I grew up in a divorced household, so I know how to swing a hammer-ish, more so than some other people did because we had to do things on our own. But construction stresses me out. So I can walk into a meeting with finance people, bankers, lawyers, whatever. I can do a presentation. I'm okay. Put me in front of like a construction thing, and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where to start.
It's not your usual thing.
It's not my usual thing.
It's a very different culture.
It's very different. And the person who was coaching me had a different set of standards, right? Like a different way of going about things. So trying to find that balance of what worked for me and where my skills were and what I wanted to do and how much time I could put into it and all of that sort of stuff was a learning curve. There were sleepless nights. There were, decisions that needed to be made. But in the end, had I not done that, I would be completely underwater at this point, right? Like if I had just gotten duplexes. So,
which some people did. They just burned duplexes and took all their money out on the refinances.
Right. Right.
They're not around anymore.
So, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. If I had started this whole thing 2 years earlier, I would be a multimillionaire at this point. Like cash flow, if I had done things faster, if I had done there's a whole
Barrie
bunch
was already
of
pretty easy compared to many other municipalities.
So what happened was they put the legislation through quite easily, but they didn't do a lot of the community consultation. The community pushed back incredibly. Yeah. And
like NIMBYs do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then my first foray into internet fame, I guess, was speaking at one of these council meetings and like holding the mayor's feet to the fire and saying like, this is the reality and this is what's going to happen in this, and a bit of naivete, I guess, of thinking that they cared or that it was their priority or that, anyhow, they voted against what I wanted and essentially shut it down. Mm-hmm. And
so just want to elaborate on the shutting it down because I believe was the setback originally a meter? Was the setbacks originally for garden suites?
So there's side yard and there's the setback on the back and then there's setbacks on the front and then there's fire legislation that dictates this where it can be in relation to the house that's already there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different measurements to take. Yeah. And the one that was the most problematic was the rear setback. Mm-hmm. So it had been 0.9 meters. So it was essentially 3 feet. Yeah. Right? So you could build up against the fence line.
Which is reasonable.
And they changed it to be 7 meters. So
over 21 feet.
So the average lot, right, is say 50 feet by 125 feet.
7 meters? Yeah. I thought it was 3 they pushed it to. Okay.
No. So
you're there, so obviously you know better than I
do. So the questions that they asked of the building department, in my opinion, were wrong. So the building department came back with a report that seemed to indicate that it wouldn't make much of a difference. Yeah. But it was because they asked the wrong questions.
Yeah. Structure fires are already incredibly rare.
So it's a situation of the wrong people asking the wrong questions.
Oh, great.
Interpreting right. Or maybe it was right.
But they got what they wanted. The NIMBYs got what they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was the right outcome because it's what they wanted. Yeah. So it was just the wrong outcome for me. So when you think about it, like say the average lot is 50 feet wide and 125 feet long, right? So you've got maybe 10 feet of front yard. You've got 50 or 60 feet of house, right? Like the primary residence that's already there. So let's say you have a 60-foot backyard. So you have a 60-foot backyard, and now you have to be 21, let's round it, 20 feet off the back.
Yeah.
So now you have 40 feet.
Yeah.
But depending on how much glass is on the back of the house and how much glass is on the front of what you're designing, there's a fire barrier that you can't be within X number of feet. So it's something that the architects figure out for you because it's based on glass, essentially. So let's say you can't be within 15 feet of the primary residence.
Okay.
So now you have a 60-foot lot, and you can't be 20 feet here, and you can't be 15 feet here. Oh, and then you also can't be
There's more.
3 meters on this side and then 3 meters on this side.
Yeah.
So now you're looking at like a 200 square foot build. And they were like, well, that's the minimum build. Like the minimum build standard was like 189 square feet or something. So it's basically like a studio with a bathroom.
That's nothing.
It's very, very small.
That's a ton of money.
Like it was, but
the cost of square foot would be enormous.
well, so this is the issue of what I was saying to council is it's the cost to get plumbing. The cost to get heating and cooling is like, say, $100,000. You have to trench everything. You've got to work in the system. You've got to run your hydro. You still have to get a furnace, or you have to get a heat pump, or you have to get something, right? So the first square foot that you build is $100,000.
Right.
And then after that, you're kind of encapsulating air. So it becomes cheaper and cheaper as you encapsulate this floor space. So now you've taken something and made it undesirable in the marketplace. You've made the rents incredibly low and the construction costs just as high because we're not saving any money. So it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, you basically killed the business case.
Like you've killed the business case for this. Maybe that's what they wanted to do. I don't, I don't know.
Make the voters happy, which is generally NIMBYs.
And then they overflowed on that like tree protection legislation, and they just made it harder and harder and more expensive because you needed more engineer reports to do the same thing. So you're looking at $10,000 or $15,000 in engineering and design and all of that before there's a shovel in the ground. Then Bill C-23 came in, right? And
so we have to force them the municipalities.
Turned everything on their head. And so I had an application that was in that had been denied because I had to go through this like commercial process because of the zone that it was in. Even it was not a fun experience. It had been denied. It had come back to me. All of the legislation changed. So I went back to them and said, okay, so I want to resubmit this application. And I'm going to get the timing wrong, but say like the legislation came in November or December or something. And they came back to me and they're like, oh, well, as of January 1st, you now require grading plans done by an engineer. And so
Wow.
So yes, this legislation allows it to happen, but then they said, all right, if we're going to be forced to do that, then we are going to put all of these caveats.
Right.
So, and that was like an extra $5,000 report and an extra 2 months. And, so it was roadblock after roadblock.
So they're still basically saying we don't want this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like when you look at it economically from a city perspective, it's probably not the best use of resources, right? Like the best use of resources would be to build purpose-built apartment rentals. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I understand that completely. But I, as an individual, can't do that. But I, as an individual, could maybe buy a duplex and put so it ended up making it an institutional problem or solution versus something that you and I could help with.
They're letting the big players make money instead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll just add to that, like you're talking about like tree protection and stuff like that. But like if we can't develop, then that forces us to go into the green belt. We're going to cut down more trees and take out more farmland.
And it was one of the points that I had tried to make is all of the NIMBYs who are saying, you know, not in my backyard, this tree was 100 years old, you've uprooted the tree. And like, I admit some people took liberties and did things that were probably not very neighborly. Mm-hmm. Full stop, I admit that. You know, they didn't talk to the neighbors, they cut down the most beautiful tree in the like just things that were inconsiderate, like not illegal, but inconsiderate. But I was like, so you would rather than have something built in your backyard or have a basement apartment put in, you would rather have us go to virgin land or go to agricultural land. It's not in
their backyard.
Right? Because it's not in your backyard. I was like, and you're probably the same person that has a bumper sticker that says farmers feed cities. So which is it? Yeah. And that's where the duplicity just drives me crazy.
And now we're going to pay for it with our property taxes, with all these increases coming.
Yeah,
because of Bill 23.
And the thing is it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because now you're able to build up to a fourplex, right?
Let's see who gets it done.
One of the things that the counselors.
Sorry, let me just pause you for a second.
Yeah.
How much were these garden suites costing you
to build?
Yeah.
So I did all the GC work myself.
Uh-huh.
So between 175 and 225.
What if you didn't self GC? What do you think the retail price would be?
We round up to 250, because it depends on a lot of stuff, but
right.
You can get it done for 250. But like 250 a door for a brand new, like, where are you going to get that in the province, right? Like.
Yeah. So you understand my investment case for going somewhere else.
For sure.
Without having to get permits and
But then when you look at going someplace else, then you're looking at management fees, you're looking at currency conversions, you're looking at like a whole slew of other issues. And part of so we had talked about my background a little bit, and the fact that I did the ad agency thing, and then I ended up going to law firms, and I worked at law firms for years where I was rich adjacent. And when I decided I didn't want to go back to work, I bought in Florida and stayed home for a few years, and then had postpartum depression after my second, and just went stir crazy, and I need to do something. So I ended up taking a contract role working in marketing at a small charity, right? And part of what this charity did, it would give away money to doctors and healthcare providers that were doing research, and they did fellowships and that sort of thing. So that's where I started to learn about the social determinants of health and how much housing plays a role in the mental health and the stability of a community. Yeah. And
affordability. It's incredibly important.
Incredibly so. And
who wants to live paycheck to paycheck?
Well, and the low grade stress that comes with that takes 10 years off your life. And so poverty is an early death sentence, right? Because it is, you can't make healthy decisions, the low level stress that you're under all the time. So anyhow, so I was in this position where we were giving money to doctors that were researching compassion and artificial intelligence and how to provide, and all of them talked about the social determinants of health, and all of them talked about how important housing was and how important. So I sort of said to myself at that point, how can I take all of my skill set and make a difference? So can I make money and make a difference at the same time and directly impact the social determinants of health for people in my community?
You're made of sterner stuff than I am.
So that is how Uplift Ventures was born. So that was the first company that I started, and I was like, I'm taking one home and creating three. So I'm creating new housing in the marketplace, and if I'm the landlord, then I can decide who I'm renting to, and I can decide on my criteria and all of that, so that I can use my power for good. And I find that, like, I ended up taking a whole feminist marketing course to get used to saying that I want power and that I want money, because those are two things that women are not encouraged to have at all in society.
I encourage my daughter to.
Well, and I'm encouraging my kids as well, and explaining it to my son that it's totally okay for women. Like, so in my household, things are very different. But generally speaking, women are oppressed within society, like globally. And when a person who is oppressed thinks of the word power, they tend to think of oppression because that's how power has been applied to them. They've had a glass ceiling put over them. They've been physically abused. They've been, all of these things. So relearning that language to say, no, I want power, and it's a positive thing. And when I have that power, I can make decisions that impact other people was really a life-changing thing for me. So that's part of the reason why I did it, because I knew that I could make money. I could add to the fabric of society. I could be a landlord that, that I wanted to be. So make a difference and make money. So that is why that was my thing.
So I wanted to do the same thing, but it's just too hard.
Well, and this is so I had put it out many years ago, and I actually, in preparing for this interview, had gone back to the website that I had created because I have been beaten down, right, over the last 3 years. Like COVID, starting a business during COVID, doing real estate, doing all of this stuff. Right. You're like, oh,
being a landlord.
Like I'm just tired, But the original idea of what I wanted to do was, it was called Vision 2030, and it was having 250 properties and donating back $50,000 a year to charitable things and lowering the barriers to home ownership and to rentals for women and children and like people experiencing violence and stuff. And when I put that out there, my idea was that I would have properties across Ontario, and that because I manage them myself, it could and I don't know if it's politically correct, but it could act kind of like an underground railroad, right? So if a woman was suffering from abuse in Toronto and she needed to get away from somebody, there was like me, an organization where it would be like, do you have any apartments available? But my family is actually in Kitchener. Is there any, So I would be able to provide some mobility for these people in need. So that was the goal. And this was, the heyday of real estate. Interest rates were 2%. Everything was doable. The sky was blue. The grass was green. Everything was fab. Yeah, okay, I've been beat down a little bit now, but I would still love to be able to do that. How can I do that? I'm not going to do that with my own portfolio, nor do I want to do that with my own portfolio anymore. And I think that I've always been fiercely independent and have thought of how can I do it? How can I do it? How I'm responsible for me. And so now I'm looking at it and saying, I have this experience. I have the construction experience. I have the management experience. So why can I not create an Uplift program and do management for other people that are of similar mind, right? So I can start doing that within the province. And, I don't have the team set up. I don't have, I have teams and people from Toronto to Muskoka, because that's, in Barrie, I have people that work for me in Muskoka. So I've got the construction crews, I've got all of that stuff. So property management in that region would be relatively easy. But I'm thinking, in 5 or 10 years, I could take this Uplift program, this Uplift pilot program, and develop it across the province. And that might be a way for me to work with people who are like-minded, who also want to do these things. Because I find there's the landlords who are like, you know what, my mortgage went up, your rent is going up $500, fully knowing that it's not legal to do that, and threatening, intimidating, those are not the people for me. There are a lot of people out there who want to buy 1 or 2 houses. They don't mind if somebody stays there for a few years. They want to provide housing and stability to people. And the goal is in 20 years it's paid off, they give it to their kids or something, right? It's not their primary source of business. So for that, I'm like, why can't I walk into that situation and say, listen, I want to respect tenants. I want to respect landlords. How can we make this work? And so one of the things that I was looking at for this Vision 2030 that I had written back in 2020 or 2019 was to also have 10% of my portfolio provided to affordable housing. Now, affordable housing has all sorts of different definitions. There's like a federal, provincial, municipal definition, and then there's, what people on TikTok think that it is. And it's all incredibly different. So I'm looking at creating the pilot project where if I take on property management, that I would actually cover some of the insurance costs for a percentage of the portfolio, or split that insurance cost so that through a program like Single Key, we can insure the income so that the credit scores don't have as big of an impact for people who are applying, to try to lower those barriers, but do it in a way that is still fiscally responsible, right? So that's, I think, like my 2024 thing is how do I get this done? How do I get it done through other people, and have everybody make a little bit of money and have everybody feel good about the decisions that they're making.
Did you hear my episode where the gentleman's building 300 units affordable housing?
No.
We'll talk about that before you go.
Okay.
Yeah, 300 units across 3 buildings.
I think
and it's all government definition of affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
So it's like, it's cheap.
And I think I'm always looking like 5 years ahead, because I don't know, I have a problem where I'm not very good at living in the moment. I'm always like looking to the next thing. So I'm like, you know what, I would like to start this management. I would like to build that out until 2030. I want to have the resort. We haven't really talked about that yet, but have the resort, have that making money. And the idea there is also to give back, to be able to work with youth sports teams, to be able to donate some of those experiences to sick kids, to have to have people come out.
But first things first is make money.
Yeah. And that's I think maybe like something that I haven't prioritized enough, is myself making money, because I always want to be of service to other people. So I'm getting better at creating my boundaries and saying, no, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. But there's a lot of frustration in the market, because I also have a land assembly deal in Calgary that's going on right now. And, interest rates have messed that up, quite considerably. And
sorry,
it's not because we didn't do our job.
Are you borrowing a lot of the capital for the land assembly? Is that why interest rates are hurting?
So no, it's not that. So we actually, I'll pat us on the back that we did really well, and we actually got the land assembled and then got it rezoned for more than we ever even thought that we could. But the thing is that there's only a certain amount of builders who do concrete construction and who do projects of that size, because we're talking like an $80 million construction budget. So they're coming back and saying like construction loans at this point are 9 or 10% on a $75 million build. So the economics of things have changed considerably. Yeah. So it's not that we didn't do our job or we didn't deliver anything. It's just
right. Can you just wait this out?
The situation changed. If we had the capital to be able to land bank it, it would actually be amazing, because the value is there, right? The capability to build is there. The city wants to see this. They were really,
Calgary
really
has like
supportive.
the second most towers up in the air after Toronto. Like second place is a big deal in Canada. I think they have like 19 cranes in the sky in Calgary, something like that.
I can imagine. So, and we're just outside the Beltline. Yeah. So like,
can you just sit on it for 2 years until rates come down?
We can't. Like we have investors' money in it, so we have what we promised to investors. So if we did anything other than that, we would have to go back to them and figure that out. So. There's always a possibility.
The investment case makes sense.
It depends. Yeah,
or
it
else
depends.
You want your money.
It depends, right? I get it, the typical accountant or lawyer answer is always, it depends, because you don't know what.
I know, but the land developer answer should always be, I'm in it for the long term.
Well, we had always wanted to put it together and then move on, right? So sales was always,
I know, but
was
this is
always
plan
the
B.
thing.
It's
And
not a
that's
bad
what,
plan B.
like what is the plan B, and then what do the investors want? Because if they're in a situation where they put $100,000-$200,000 into something, and everything else that they have, the interest rates went up, and they're in pain elsewhere in their portfolio, maybe they want that $100,000 back. They don't want the 5-year timeline. Who
Always
knows?
the challenge with
But
partners.
we'll see how it goes. It's just it's been a year that no one anticipated.
I know, because the Bank of Canada damn lied to us.
Lied to our faces. Yeah.
And even the banks didn't catch on. Because the banks weren't really telling us to lock in when we should have. Right? Because no one saw us coming.
And that's just it. When we talk about woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I was finishing up construction, and in October, I talked to the bank, and they said, "Yep, okay, 80% LTV, everything is good." So I finished up construction, closed the permit, got it rented out in December. Had people, had all the leases in place, went back to them in January, and they said, "Oh, we only do 60% LTV now." So no fault of my own, other than maybe I could have worked quicker. Suddenly I don't have that 20%. And now I'm carrying the mortgage and a line of credit because it can't be amalgamated. So now I've got 2 payments.
Yeah.
So
and
now
more expensive debt.
And more expensive debt. So now cash flow is, so then, okay, well, what do you do and where do you go and how do you handle all of that? So there's been a lot of pivoting and a lot of figuring that out.
And that's why you pivoted to Muskoka?
Well,
because we need to get there. We need
to get there.
We're running out of time. We need to get to Muskoka.
Running out of time. Yeah. So we bought a resort in Muskoka.
Yeah. That's your pivot.
That's my pivot.
We're running out of money. Let's go buy this
So STRs are big business. Everybody's talking about Airbnb, short-term rental, that sort of thing.
Because everyone's trying to get away from long-term rentals. I know you're not, but
well, yeah. But the thing is short-term rentals are volatile. They're harder to finance because you need more historical data to do that, and some banks just won't even touch them. It is there's so much NIMBYism and pushback on it. Then there's bylaws and legislation and everything that can change. Whereas where we bought into a commercial area.
Right.
So we are a legitimate business that can't be pushed out by our neighbors.
You're
complaining.
zoned. Do you have license?
We're zoned.
You have the right licensing.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about the property. Where is it?
So
and how big is it? It's pretty big.
It's 2.5 acres.
That's big.
Yeah. It's called the Chalets. The Chalets on Lake Muskoka. So you can look it up at chaletsmuskoka.ca. We have 9 units ranging from 2 to 6 bedrooms, and we have 350 feet of waterfront on Lake Muskoka. It is in Gravenhurst, which is as close to the GTA as you can get and still be in Muskoka. So the commute time is much less than, going to Algonquin or something like that.
I've gone, yep.
Yeah, and we allow parties and get-togethers and things like that because the point is, family reunions, events where people come in and they're like, well, we have 30 people with us.
Oh my Lord.
That doesn't fit into one Airbnb. So we've got mom and dad in one cabin and husband and wife and kid in 2 or 3 other cabins. So they can all share their entire day together and be on the water and, do all of their activities. But then grandma and grandpa can go to bed and not be woken up when the toddlers wake up. So everybody has their own personal space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very nice setup, really. And we've recently, by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have launched our celebration center, which is our small event space there. So if you are looking for a corporate retreat or a wellness retreat, something like that, we can do anything from, a couple of people to 65.
So small weddings too, then?
Small weddings too. Yeah.
Surprised you didn't start there.
Well, so
Because you
the
have the
geography.
accommodation too.
We do. We definitely do. So the accommodation, the geography is such that we're built onto the Canadian Shield. So we're actually built into granite rock. So the two large chalets that we have kind of an odd layout because they're built into the rock, which means we don't have a lot of flat ground. So if you want to have a wedding where you want to put up a big tent and have it out, like, we can't do that because we don't have enough flat ground to be able to do it. But we did have somebody get married on our dock last year, right? So it just depends on what people are looking for. So we do, and so that's part of what I've been doing for the last year is building relationships with the people around us and the referral relationships and those business relationships with wedding planners, with conference planners, with the Chamber of Commerce, with suppliers and locals and local businesses. So it's been a really great year, and
You have a startup.
yeah, definitely. And
That's in the event space. So it's high touch. And you have how many staff?
Exactly. Technically none. Yeah.
So you're cleaning all the units yourself.
Not voluntarily. So like we have people that work for us or with us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're not full-time staff yet. We do have an owner's suite there. So right now there are investors that are staying in the owner's suite as part of their return on investment. But we do have the possibility of having on-site management and having them live there. So we're looking at that as well.
Right. Do you have a restaurant on site?
No.
What do people do for food then?
We don't. So everything has full kitchens, right? So like they're full homes. Most people cook for themselves. The average stay is like 2 or 3 days. So we're not talking like a full week. And now we do have a list of approved caterers that will come in and provide catering. Mm-hmm. There's, a restaurant just down the street from us, and there is.
Well, they must love you then.
Fields. Yeah. Well, this is like everybody is so far anyway. People have been quite hospitable, and the business owners have been willing to partner and to work together to create packages for people and to create experiences for people.
I love small town business investing.
Honestly, like there's been a few people where they've not wanted to play ball, they've not been interested, they've not.
Yeah, there's always NIMBYism.
And like there's
because you're bringing traffic.
Well, it's a situation where some of it is old money, I think, and because it's old money, it just flows, right? Like it flows based on reputation. They don't have to do any marketing. They don't have to do any of those things because they're the game in town. Right.
So it's more like they're ignoring you versus like they just want to. They're not stopping you.
They're not stopping me. Yeah. They're like, okay, good luck on that.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I have to do.
It's much better than NIMBYs.
Oh, exactly.
Because they have torches and pitchforks.
Exactly. Right. Whereas like most of the people have been pretty good. But it takes a while. It takes admittedly longer than we anticipated to make all of those relationships, to get those good reviews, to come in, to turn everything around. So, we've I think done a really good job with marketing, with rebranding, with creating a new website, with putting in new offerings for people. And one of the things that we've kind of started to specialize in is sports teams. So having sports teams come out and do team building weekends. So I did it with my son's team and with a friend of mine's child's team last year. We got all the feedback from that and then implemented a team building weekend where they would come out, we would provide all of the groceries, and we would get them 2 hours of ice time locally so that they could bring out the team and do team bonding activities. So, they're having bonfires in the evening, they're getting their on ice training, and then the way that our property is, we have a lot of stairs, we have hills and stuff, so they're doing dryland training actually on the premises. And they've had a great time. The feedback has been wonderful.
Yeah, I imagine they make some pretty nice memories.
Right, like it's been wonderful, and it's a profitable endeavor for us, and it also gets us, involved in sports and teams and kids, which is something that's beneficial to the community as well. So it's It's been a win-win. So that's something that we're focusing on from September to March. And
Which is generally a quiet time.
which is exactly, right? So that's when these teams are put together. And admittedly, I was looking at hockey, and then my girlfriend's daughter plays ringette, and she's like, well, there you go. So it's very, very similar. So it was the same package, right? Like the sport that you play on the ice, doesn't matter. And then we had somebody reach out that was like, well, we have soccer teams.
No, we don't like soccer.
And I was like, and I said, well, you don't need ice time, obviously. What do you need? And she was like, oh, we don't actually need anything. It's just we need team building. We need bonding for these competitive teams at the beginning of the season. So we were hosting all of these, and then in the media was that the Maple Leafs were actually in Gravenhurst doing their team building. So the teams can actually play on the same ice.
They were playing on the same ice?
Because they use the Gravenhurst Arena. So you can come up, be in Muskoka, the same way that they are, and play on the ice that they use to do your team. Like, it's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
But the soccer team doesn't get the benefit.
The soccer team doesn't.
Nor
but
the basketball team.
We can. I have talked to the people at the city, and we can reserve baseball. Yeah. We can reserve soccer fields, and they have a brand new YMCA there, so we can get. We've dealt with them to get day passes.
Right.
So you can have a day pass to the YMCA and have use of the pool, have full use of the gym as well.
Right. So it's like a giant birthday party.
Exactly. And like we have water trampolines, right? So these kids.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds awesome.
It's awesome.
Wait, it's in the lake?
In the lake.
Oh, that's awesome.
So water, and we have swings like above the water, so you can swing, jump in, swim, go to the water trampoline, do spins off of that, and then jump into a kayak or canoe, and so there's so many things for them to do when the water is not frozen. And then because we're built on the granite ridge, you can actually do tobogganing. So you can do tobogganing and toboggan down towards the lake and then have a bonfire, have your s'mores. You can do all of that like fun team building kind of stuff. We have a volleyball court. So the kids last year waited until the snow got super high, and then that made them that much closer to the top of the volleyball net. So the kids were out in their full snowsuits playing volleyball and like dive bombing into the snow and like having a fabulous time.
Sounds awesome.
It was pretty awesome, I must say. And then, in my mind, I'm like, this is pretty,
right.
This is pretty special. Right,
because I would just watch and let the kids exhaust themselves.
Exactly, and one of the cottages that we have, it's called the Clubhouse, and we purposely decorated it with like sports, and it's not a tacky sports theme. It's like one bedroom has some artwork that has hockey featured, another bedroom has tennis, another bedroom has golf. So you see these kids come in and they're like, I want the golf bedroom, I want the hockey bedroom, and then they start competing with each other to get, whatever.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, we'll come back next year and be the first one through the door, and you can get the hockey bedroom and not the tennis bedroom, or, whatever the preference is there.
So Rachel, you have a lot going on.
I do. Yeah.
How are you handling?
Well, so I've had to cut some dead weight from the portfolio.
Oh, what did you cut?
So we had bought a cottage that was supposed to be sort of our personal cottage. And at the time that we bought it, the interest rates were lower, the same story, but there was enough profit within the portfolio to pay for it. And then when the interest rates rose, that was no longer the case. So I was like, I can't have my cottage, maintain it, possibly try to Airbnb it, and run this other business at the same. So something had to go. So, so we just sold. We just closed on that. We just sold it. Again, like an emotional thing, because it wasn't just a business buy. That one was an emotional buy, which is unfortunate. And then I've sold a triplex as well. So that triplex is going to be closing at the end of the year, like in November, December. So then the focus is the resort, and then the possibility of like doing some of this management. So
we need to discuss the management.
Yeah. So I don't have all the answers yet. I haven't put it all together.
Well, actually, that's a good point. Do you know you're going to niche into sports teams when you bought the place?
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But
My point is like no one has all the answers when they get into something.
And that's the thing, right? Like I think that
But I will add, you have a ton of professional experience in marketing, advertising.
yeah.
And you've done construction. How many units do you have? How many houses in Barrie do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 8.
So these are
And
8
I've
duplexes and with garden suites.
Triplex, garden suite, triplexes. Right. Yeah. So
it's a bungalow with a basement apartment and a garden suite type thing.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're a pretty accomplished real estate investor, and you're used to invasive renovations.
Well, I looking back, it's one of those things where when I look back at what I did in Florida, and the time that I did it, like being pregnant and then breastfeeding and traveling with a 5-month-old, and like I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
And I did. I came through the other side, and I know that in 5 or 10 years, when I look back at this, I will not know how I survived.
Yeah.
But I plan to survive.
And stay married.
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. My husband's not really involved, which is, I think, surprising to people.
He has a day job?
He has a day job. Yeah, he works. He lets me do my thing. Like, there's been times when I've desperately wanted more support from him, and he wasn't able to provide it. And there's times when he's able to help. He works in IT, but he has actually like a manufacturing background, so he knows how to fix a lot of things. He's
Nice.
really resilient that way, so it's very helpful. But it's not his jam. It's my jam. So it's all on me, good or bad, I guess.
Tell me more about the management.
Pardon?
Tell me more about management.
So the management, yeah.
The management. Is that what the business is called? I like it.
So I started Keratin Management. So it's Keratin, which is like my kids' initials and part of my last name, to manage my own properties. Right, so I manage my own properties with that, and then I've managed the construction for JVs through that company. So I'm looking at it now and saying, well, I have this skill set, I have these people in place, I'm doing all of this anyway, so why don't I open it up to clients? So you heard it here first. I don't have a website up yet. I never bothered to create one because I wasn't looking for anything from anybody. It was, my own operating company. But I will be offering that. And anybody who wants information on that or wants to talk to me, and this is, I don't know what words to use, like, ethical property management, by the book property management, and somebody who's maybe interested in an insurance product and that sort of thing. I've updated my Uplift Ventures website, so upliftventures.ca. There's a form right on the homepage where it just says, like, are you in, like, submit your name here if you're interested. We'll see in the next couple of weeks between recording this if I can create some sort of download. Let's be honest, I probably won't, because I've got other stuff going on right now. But if it's something that you're interested in, and like sort of the Barrie, Aurelia, up to Muskoka kind of area, my thought process is I'd like to take on maybe 10, maybe 20 people, and take what I've done and the processes that I have for myself and expand those and see how that goes, see how that fits, and then kind of go from there. Who knows? Opening the door, it might be a flood, or maybe it'll be birds chirping. I'm not quite sure, but.
Well, before we're recording, we were talking about like all the Airbnb issues. Like, for example, BC's shutting down basically Airbnb. It's going to be, you probably know better. Like, where are you allowed to operate an Airbnb in Ontario?
Well, each municipality is looking at it differently. So it's really unfortunate because.
Well, hang on. It's fortunate for you.
Well, no, it's a situation where when you're looking at a property, you then have to backtrack and see what municipality it is in. And when we're talking about Muskoka and a lot of these cottage countries, there's individual townships, right? Yeah. So you have to figure out what rules you're
But
being
generally,
invested under.
I don't think any municipality is open to this.
You know what? So
and my point about-
my place was in Muskoka Lakes,
Yeah.
and they were actually okay with, like, their
Okay.
population is so low
Really?
generally
Okay.
that they know that the majority of the people who own do this
I think this is like the only place I've heard of that's
on this
that's
side.
open to it.
But then Huntsville was doing something, Bracebridge was doing
Yeah.
something,
And how are they?
And
Do you have an idea? Are they for or against?
generally against,
Yeah.
but they also know that that tourism is their major economic driver. But so what they're doing is putting in licensing programs, and they're
right.
doing things that have to do with like septic tank management and maintenance. And I can tell you from experience, that's a $30,000 to $50,000 ticket repair if it's deemed inappropriate. So when you're looking at all
Right,
of these
because you need to
things,
judge it for the volume.
yeah, and then the volume of what your license, like, and the volume of who you can sleep is two different things as well. Then there's like sound ordinances, there's light ordinance, there's so much that goes into it. And looking at it from my perspective and being, somewhat risk adverse, even though it, looks like I do all sorts of things. To have a beautiful place on a lake with 100 feet of waterfront is probably going to cost you $1 million, right? So if we say $1 million, okay, so now we have to put 20% down. It's so right now I'm invested $200,000, so I have an $800,000 mortgage. And how much is that $800,000 mortgage? Now it's at 6 or 7, so we're talking, you don't have leases, so you can't use the income to get so now, okay, so how are we doing that? Are we buying a pre-existing one that has a couple of years of tax returns?
Right.
Then you have to assume that person
was HST.
was like, so there's HST, GST, like, did they pay taxes on everything?
Oh,
Did they rent it in the off season? Because there's cash business that happens as well.
Yeah.
So then trying to establish what that looks like, in my mind, is too hard, because now I've got $60,000, like say $50,000 worth of mortgage payments. Well, now I also then, insurance. And if you have insurance for an Airbnb, it's twice the cost as normal insurance. So that's another $5,000-$7,000 a year. So when you take all of that and put it into the spreadsheet, and management is also incredibly expensive. So management of an Airbnb is typically 20 to 25%.
Some charge 30, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then you've got the cost of doing business and the cleaning and all of that. So now, like, I am part of some of these like STR Facebook groups and things, and the questions that people ask are just like, I understand why there's pushback against this. Like, oh, somebody took off their eye makeup with my towels. Can I charge them for that? And you're running a hotel, you're running a business. This is not. But now people's margins have been squeezed. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how it plays out in the next few years. But all I know is, like, I don't have to deal with that. And
Because you're licensed.
Because I'm licensed, and the economic development teams in the city like us and want to see us succeed. So rather than having our neighbors fight us in our existence, we do actually have things that are propping us up. Right. So,
and as if you weren't busy enough, you joined the tourism board.
Yeah. So right? Because why not? There's a lot of research out there for STRs, right? Like, but it was
there's massive demand for it.
There's massive demand for it, but it's also because tourism is such a big thing provincially.
Muskoka,
there is through. I'm going to get some of the organizations wrong. Through Explorer's Edge, I believe, there's RTO 12. So we are RTO 12, and they do a lot of research for commercial accommodators and commercial people within the tourism industry. So there's all sorts of statistics that come out that is done on a provincial level. And then there's Muskoka Tourism, which is an agency that was created specifically to market the region. So they have a budget as well. They have a membership, and they are responsible to the membership for increasing the visibility of Muskoka regionally and internationally. So now you've got ad campaigns that are government funded and research that's government funded that is helping you make these decisions, right? So you're not having to go out and do all of that market research on your own because it's there. So Discover Muskoka has been great to us. That it's, you know, it's a website. It's where people go if they want to plan a trip, or, you know, where you should go. So if you haven't been there yet, discovermuskoka.ca. You know, things to do, places to go, tours, driving tours, all of the information for Muskoka is there. So I had put my hat in the ring and said, yeah, you know, I'd love to be on the board. And
not busy enough. And they were like, oh, you know, like, we have our board members for this year. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, you know, I'm selling my cottage. That's going to be off my plate now. I can focus on this. And my cottage closed on Thursday, and on Wednesday, I got the email that they wanted me to be on the board. So I was like, well, that's exciting.
Okay. So we have our actually first strategic meeting today to talk about the strategic direction and the plan for 2024. So again, it's taking the marketing background, the research background, all of that, and
they must have loved that.
You know, making it useful.
They must have loved that in your application.
I would hope so. I don't know.
Because most volunteer organizations do not have high level talent, right?
Yeah,
I mean, now it would cost them a fortune to hire you.
For sure, yeah.
Here you are volunteering.
I know,
because you're not busy enough.
Am I not a fool? But the thing is, so I can make an impact, though, right? I can create, or I can suggest the creation of all sorts of stuff. So
shutting down more Airbnbs.
Get them out, all of them. And that's just it. Like I'm very lucky in that, you know, we have something that Airbnbs can't offer. So we have that large group thing. And because we're on Lake Muskoka, we're on the chain, right? So you can take a boat tour from our dock and get dropped off at another resort and do your golfing then come back and not have to worry about drinking and driving. You can do water ski lessons. You can do boat tours of Millionaires Row, because we're attached to all of that. Whereas, you know, some of the smaller lakes, there's a ton of smaller lakes, which are fine. You know, you can do your canoeing and stuff like that. But we have access to that whole other world because we're on one of the big lakes.
All right, Rachel, I have a few more questions. We gotta go. Yeah. Because we're way over time. How is the chalet business going? Is it good? You want to pay it back soon? What is your first goal? So
the first goal is stability, right? So the person who owned it before us did not operate it in the winter. So there wasn't a lot of pre-existing winter business. Rumor has it he ran a cash business during the winter. And
they didn't disclose it to you?
No, so there's...
We probably shouldn't discuss it too much.
Yeah, we shouldn't discuss it too much. Yeah, you know. It is building and it is getting better. I think we underestimated how long it was going to take. Yeah. So, for instance, like round numbers, if you make $10,000 in November this month, but then you earn 20 the next, you can exponentially, so those people, 60% of them are coming back. They enjoy it, and then they tell their friends. So everybody that I've talked to in the marketplace is like, you know, it takes like 5 years because people aren't making these decisions based on your website. They're making it based on word of mouth. Yeah. So the first year we had 2 teams out. This year we have 6. Ooh. Next year there will be
tasty.
12 ideally. Yeah. So we're letting that is happening organically, but I'm going up, we're the title sponsor for a local under 12 tournament. So we're going to be there. We've got, the temporary tattoos, we've got the cool stuff, and I will be with all of those 12-year-olds and talking to them about these trips. And I think that it's a really underserviced market. We've talked to...
Well, again, many facilities cannot handle this many people.
Well, and that's just it, right? And then the ability to offer them food and groceries, because you've got 20 kids, different parents, right? So then you're trying to carpool everybody, you're trying to get everything together, and then this one has an allergy and this one has this, and then you've got to go grocery shopping. And, when do you have time to do that? And who's going to watch? So we offered this service of, okay, so here's a standardized menu. And it's something that almost all teenagers would like. And this is what we'll provide to you. And it was like, what? I don't have, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? So
wait, the groceries are like in the cabin waiting for them?
in the cabin
That's
waiting
awesome.
for them. In the
You don't
cabin
have to go
waiting for
grocery
them.
shopping.
You don't have to go grocery shopping. Yeah. So and we provide some of the like tastes of Muskoka. So we give them a s'mores kit. We give them some stuff from Muskoka Springs, which is like a local bottler of soda.
So cool.
That's like pretty cool. So things that they might not necessarily get at home on a regular basis. And then just like, spaghetti and like fun foods and things. But it also means that the coffee is there. They're not going to a breakfast spot to pay for that. So this weekend, actually, somebody came in for a tournament and they did a total team takeover. So they bought out the entire resort. And when you think about it, you've got maybe 15 kids on a team. Each of those 15 kids typically travels with 2 parents. Sometimes there's one, but now we've got 45 people, right? So 15 and then 2 parents for that one child. And then we've got siblings. So then what do the siblings do while the player is playing, while they're being trucked around or the parent is trying to entertain, right? Well, we have a play chalet. We have an entire ground. So you can come in, you can take over the whole thing. You can have our celebration center where you can have your team meals. You can hang out in the evening. The kids can play sports in there. And you're not being ushered out of a hallway because you're standing in a hallway having a beer trying to talk to the other adults. So this is our first total team takeover this weekend. And
that's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah. It's very exciting because there's a lot of... there's a rowing club, there's a curling club, there's bonspiels, there's hockey, there's all of that stuff. So when you start to look at the sport environment and people that are coming in and out, it's a massive marketplace.
Even for just every tournament that comes to town.
Yeah, right? So...
Because who won't want a group setting in nature? Pretty much everyone does.
Exactly, yeah. So like, we've had soccer team, like the soccer association, so not even a team, like the soccer association reach out, and then we've had baseball now too, and they're looking for summer of 2024, saying like we've got 50 people. Where can we go?
And then you had the fun venue.
Yeah, you can't go to an Airbnb. And
even a hotel is just vanilla, right?
A hotel is
not the same experience.
Is not the same experience. And of the hotels that are sort of in the region, we are actually competitively priced. Right. So you've got a situation where you could go to a hotel and you could hang out in the hallways and you can maybe...
Piss off the other guests.
Like, you can see the water, but you can't interact with it, right? Like, maybe you have a patio door and it's overlooking a body of water. But with us... you can interact with it. So you can do canoeing, you can do all of that stuff. The kids can swim to the heart's content. We have a play chalet, we have all of that stuff. So
this is just so hilarious how you found this niche and you weren't planning for it.
Really wasn't, no, but
Rachel, we have to get you out of here on time. So
yes,
one last time, contact information for the chalet, the coaching, the management business.
Yes. So go to Uplift Ventures, not Adventures, just upliftventures.ca. And there's a form there that you can fill out if you're interested in property management. And then for the resort, it's chaletsmuskoka.ca. And we're on social media channels as well. So Chalets Muskoka on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And there's a packages getaway, so you can see some of the deals and some of the stuff we have there. And coming in November, we're going to be promoting for events and for holiday parties. So if you want to come out and have a catered holiday party and have a cabin by the water for your employees, we can put all of that together for you.
Question about Uplift Ventures: will you take on coaching clients? Because there's going to be a lot of people not in your area that would like that. For example, I had a gentleman reach out from Calgary.
Really?
Yeah. Looking for a coach.
I think that would probably have to be on an ad hoc basis. So I don't have any materials, right? Like I don't have a system set up for that. But I'm quite good at
just be a consultant.
As being a consultant and saying like, what are your streams of income and what do you see? And because I'm, I guess, more than like a real estate investor, it's like, let's talk about your CPP. Let's talk about your TFSA. Let's talk about having multiple streams of income and how you want to build that out and where you should put that, and walking people through it. I'm not licensed. I'm not a financial planner. I've just been there and done that, and could maybe help people balancing their portfolio. So I'll give out my email, I guess, just in case.
Want to risk it?
Do I want to risk it?
Just let them go.
Or do I want to get involved? Okay. All right. So go to upliftventures.ca, fill it out there. There's a little spot where you add a message, so you could put in like property management or coaching or what questions.
Because you're easy to find on
and
social media, so if they want to message you directly, they can.
I am. Yeah. You can find me.
Yeah, you're not hard to find.
I'm not a secret.
Rachel, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was wonderful.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link is also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.